What's up, everyone? It's Riggs. I'm here with some more Star Wars news, but maybe not Star Wars news, maybe more baseless speculation. And I was going to engage in some of that baseless speculation myself after reading this article. But as you'll see later, this guy, Blake Hawkins at CBR.com, beat me to the punch. He filed this article a day ago, and then a few hours later, I just saw it just now, another article that kind of stole maybe a little bit of my thunder. But let's see what we got going on here. This is about Ahsoka Tano show that's coming out this year, almost this year, next year, 2023. And we'll see Ahsoka, why Thrawn likely isn't the villain of the Star Wars series. Again, this is from CBR.com, authored by Blake Hawkins, and we shall put the link in the description, as always. Star Wars fans believe Thrawn will be Ahsoka's main villain, but it's more likely that he'll join forces with Ahsoka Tano in her Disney Plus series. Star Wars has plenty of great villains, all of whom have their defining traits. Ahsoka Tano's enemy, Darth Vader, was known for his ruthlessness and determination. Her mentor? They didn't fight all that much. A little bit in Rebels. That's another piece of speculation that I guess we can get into another time. Darth Maul was defined by rage and his need for revenge. Count Dooku was established as a pawn in Darth Sidious's Clone Wars. Even non-Sith nemesis like Boba Fett and Grand Moff Tarkin had qualities that made them memorable. But Grand Admiral Thrawn combined the best aspects of that villainous crowd. Thrawn was just as ruthless as Vader, but he didn't take his subordinates for granted. He was strategically minded like Tarkin, and he was always playing the long game like Darth Sidious. He became a fan-favorite character in both Legends and Star Wars canon. Now fans are highly anticipating his return in the Ahsoka series coming to Disney+. But they might want to temper their expectations. So let's remember, Thrawn was originally introduced in Timothy Zahn's great trilogy of books in the early 90s. There's some other books that came out later that Zahn authored. I kind of lost touch with the expanded universe toward the latter part of the 90s as I was getting ready to go to college and stuff, so I don't know all that much about it, or really the topic of conversation that I want to get into. Because again, I pretty much checked out 96, 97 from a lot of this stuff, but only coming back to it recently. Always a Star Wars fan, but just didn't have the time or the bandwidth for all the extraneous stuff like books and comic books and things like that. But he was so popular that they did what I was hoping they would do, which once they waved away the expanded universe, they cherry-picked some of the greatest elements and have been bringing it back into the new canon timeline. Why Star Wars fans think Thrawn will be Ahsoka's villain. Thrawn's first canon TV appearance was in Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 1, Steps into the Shadows, Part 1. From there, he became one of the animated series' main villains. Well, he was the main villain from Season 3 and 4. Season 1, we had the Inquisitor. Season 2, we had Vader. And season 3 and 4, we had the cat and mouse game with Thrawn. From here, he became one of the animated series' main villains. His tactical expertise lured the Phoenix Squadron into many traps, and his TIE Defender program would have spelled doom for the rebellion if the factory hadn't been destroyed. Along the way, he became something of a nemesis for the show's hero, Ezra Bridger. In the two-part series finale, Family Reunion and Farewell, Thrawn was bent on destroying Lothal's capital city, and Ezra was determined to stop him. Thrawn made Ezra come to his Star Destroyer, where the young Jedi met a hologram of Emperor Palpatine. Ezra didn't fall for their offers of an alternate reality and forced his way onto Thrawn's bridge. There, he summoned the Pod of Purrgil that took the ship off into the depths of hyperspace, and that was the last anyone saw of Thrawn. So those were the space whales that got summoned and took Ezra and Thrawn away. And where we leave off in kind of the closing montage of the Rebel series, Ahsoka is meeting up with Sabine, and they're going to go bring Ezra home. Given the Rebels epilogue, fans know that Ahsoka and Sabine Wren went looking for Ezra after the Battle of Endor. Years later, Ahsoka still hadn't found him, which explains her absence from the original trilogy. During The Mandalorian, Ahsoka questioned Magistrate Elsbeth about Thrawn's whereabouts, and she wouldn't give up any information. Because of that, many viewers have assumed Thrawn is keeping Ezra hostage in the unknown regions. However, it's likely the truth is much more complicated. So we know from previous news that this series is going to take place out in deep space somewhere past the confines of the galaxy far, far away, the unknown or the other or something like that. So that's kind of where things are going. Why Thrawn won't be Ahsoka's main villain. It seems odd that Thrawn would still be holding Ezra hostage by the time Ahsoka begins. The Mandalorian was set in 9 ABY, meaning that Thrawn and Ezra have been missing for a decade. Thrawn may have always played the long game, but waiting 10 years is a little too long. It's much more likely that he moved on to some other mission. Thrawn was never loyal to the Empire. By the Rebels finale, he was looking for a way to get back to the Chiss ascendancy. While he wasn't expecting to be taxied to the unknown regions by a pod of Purgil, it was a pretty convenient way for him to disappear. It's even possible that he and Ezra joined forces against a common enemy. Thrawn was a villain because he was part of the Empire, but he was only following orders to eradicate the rebels. You know, who else only followed orders? Indiana Jones likes to punch them. With that mission out of mind, he would be refocused on protecting the Chiss people. And protecting one's own was something also important to Ezra. Those two factors make it plausible that Thrawn is not Ahsoka's villain at all. When Ahsoka and Sabine find him and Ezra, the foursome could team up to face whoever the real antagonist will be. Ahsoka is expected to premiere on Disney Plus in 2023. So I'm reading this article this morning, and the first thing that popped into my head is the Yuuzhan Vong, which I know is universally reviled by the Star Wars fandom, at least as far as I know it is. I was 96, 97 around the time they were introduced, and I think the new Jedi Order series of novels, I was pretty much checked out. I know of them. I know people didn't like them. I remember reading about it in the early days of like internet fandom message boards and things like that everybody hated the Yuuzhan Vong. But Yuuzhan Vong are from outside the galaxy. They're a race of marauders. They're coming in to get some action in the galaxy after the Empire's been kicked out of town, and they are immune to the Force or absent from the Force. So it gives Jedi all kinds of problems. So I think that maybe we're getting into the Yuuzhan Vong storyline. They're going to bring that part over into the main canon, which is interesting because I think people generally didn't like that concept. Although I think the concept of having some unknown force from outside the galaxy attacking is a little bit of a breath of fresh air from the usual dark side, light side stuff. You've got now, maybe we've got some new Jedi, which we really don't have. That whole timeline never happened. We've got a few Jedi, Luke, Grogu, Ahsoka, maybe some other, hanging around, Cal Kestis and those kind of guys. Who knows who's still out there. Certainly they're not in the sequel trilogy, but maybe during this time period, there's a few that might pop up that they can team up with. So there's this absence of force sensitive people or trained force sensitive people in the galaxy might be ripe for takeover by some hostile force from somewhere else. So we had here, this is the Yuuzhan Vong, and it gets into all their different types of characters, the gods, their history. I'll put the link to this Wikipedia in the description also. And then it gets into their mentions here, I guess, in the Legends timeline. But we've got a new article that came up a few hours later after that last one, and they definitely get into the possibility that it could be Yuuzhan Vong or Yuuzhan Vong-like race of villains who are the Grisk hegemony. And I guess I remember seeing these guys in the Star Wars Eclipse video game trailer. I guess they haven't been around much yet. This is where they were supposed to kind of be premiere, but that game's kind of in limbo right now. But they do also get into this article about the villain could be force resistant. And then we've got Yuuzhan Vong right here. Hutts also, Toydarians, Yinchori, but Yuuzhan Vong, this is the one that popped into my head with this news. I think that would be really interesting, and I'd be curious to see what the internet's reaction to that would be, to take this group of characters that everybody hated back when they first came out and were in those novelizations and everything, and they were swept away as part of the Disney takeover and the realignment of the canon. And we've got now potentially them coming back. Why don't you leave a comment? Let me know what you think, and we'll talk about it in a future mail call episode. Thanks for watching. Be sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like and share the video with your friends. It's very much appreciated. You're really helping our channel grow. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.